Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
A couple of emails, texts and tweets that coming back to our conversation about the refugees. Dee in South Bucks makes the point that I have made. The Nightingale hospitals don't exist anymore. They've reverted back to their previous use. I don't know whether that's the case nationally, but certainly in London, yes, the Excel Centre, which is just across the Thames there, sort of in Docklands, that is exactly the case. So it would not work there. Same subject, this comes in from John, who says, the offer from these people has been tremendous, but I'm hearing that in some instances the website and other areas are not being able to keep up to speed. Is this going to be another one where the computer says no? Well, we'll have to keep a watch on that. All right, do keep... Dan says no one is raising the issue that most of these refugees will be women and children. What checks are being done that the homes they go to won't be abused? You have to go through a checking system. I mean, initially, by the way, in the first wave, you have to have some kind of links with Ukraine or Ukrainians or be Ukrainian yourself. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that you don't, of course, need to be checked. Of course you do at all times. But then subsequently, as it is opened up, you will have to have checks into your background. So just covering that off, Dan. David in Hendon. David, what do you want to say? Good morning.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, sir.
Okay, firstly, I'd like to say I don't think anybody can be spectators on this atrocity. I think we all have to do what we can, but I think we're getting it wrong. We're being led by the heart and not by the mind. If we centralise our efforts, and I know you said about the Nightingale back to the O2 Centre or Excel Centre, it took only days, I think, to transform it into a hospital.
Yes.
I must tell you, the people who come over, they need language, community, education, and I can't give it to them. Although I will house somebody, I will take somebody to the post office, they're going to be stuck. But if we can centralise our effort, we can help them in a way. They don't want to stay, Nick. They're refugees, loyal and proud of their country. They want to get back. I think the country and we are looking at integrating them. That's not the right way.
We don't know, though, how long they might be here. That's an issue, surely, in your approach.
I agree. No. I've got to agree with you. By the way, I agree with you on 99% of the things you say, and I love your programme. I agree with you. I think that if they are centralised, if they are supported in a centralised way, and if they need to stay, it will be so much easier.
Where are you thinking of putting them? If we don't put them in folks' homes, where are they going to live?
No. Where they're going to live? Well, I love what the fellow said about Nightingale. No. And I have to disagree on this point. They don't want necessarily
children spending 6 months in the Nightingale hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, David, no.
Playing with each other, having a nursery teacher who speaks their language, going out to the park together. You don't need to split them up. They're not here to stay.
There's no
and
park
even if it is
near
a
the Excel. Honestly, I don't think there's any green space near the Excel. It's in the middle of Docklands.
Nick, if you need my help, I'll create a park. There's loads of parks that one can create overnight with AstroTurf, swings. Right. One can provide them with everything.
Let me ask you this, honestly, and your point is very well made. I very much doubt many of these will want to stay here for the rest of their lives. They'll want to know that their country is safe, and then they'll want to go back and see their husbands and their mums and their dads. But lastly, say I was to put to you, David, you've got to spend 2 months in a foreign country. Would you want to spend it living with a family who hopefully will make you welcome, or live it in some kind of refugee centre? Which would you choose?
Well, I must say, I've got to tell you, I would make the refugee centre very welcoming, very warm. And I don't know, Nick, because I'm going to ask you the question. You go to a foreign country, you don't speak their language. They show you love and care, but you don't speak their language. You want to go to the post office. You want to go to the shop. You're stuck there. Here we can bring everything to them. And yes, of course they should go out. All right.
OK, I have to move on, David, because finally we've been able to get to the latest government input, and you'll want to hear as much as I have. David, thank you for all your input. But let's bring into the conversation straight away Europe and North America Minister James Cleverly, who joins me now. Minister, I wonder if we can get you to reflect on the headline in the Financial Times this morning. China has signalled willingness to provide Russia with military support, says the US. What more details, as the Minister of North America, what more do you have on that, Mr Cleverly? Good morning.
Nick, good morning. Look, we work very closely with the United States of America. We share intelligence. We speak regularly. In fact, I was on the phone just yesterday afternoon with my American opposite number and my French, German, and Italian counterparts. I have seen this report. The message that we send to China and indeed everybody else is that this war is illegal, it's unprovoked, and it must not be supported. And we call upon countries to join us and others in sanctioning Russia and choking off their ability to fund this illegal and unjustified war. And that is a message that we'll take very strongly to China as well.
But do you know whether this is true that China is cozying up to Putin? Do we know if that's true?
Well, I can't confirm that. As I say, we work very, very closely with the Americans. We listen carefully to what they say, and we very much respect their assessment of what's going on. So our message is really clear: there is no justification in this war. No country should support this war, and actually, what we're looking to do is encourage countries to join us and others in sanctioning Russia to prevent the flow of money which is being used to fund this war effort.
I don't know whether you've had time to read it, but your boss, the Prime Minister, has a piece in one of the newspapers today, the Daily Telegraph, in which he writes, "The West made a terrible mistake by relying on Russian oil and gas following the invasion of Crimea in 2014. Is he right?
Well, we have seen now that, of course, he is absolutely right. The UK was in a pretty good position. We have very, very small amounts, relatively speaking, of Russian oil and gas coming into our system. Other European countries were much, much more reliant. I think a lot of those countries have been very honourable and very bold, despite their reliance on Russian oil and gas, to be critical of Russia and joining with the sanctions against Russia. But ultimately, in order to prevent Putin from funding this conflict, we need to choke off that money supply, and that means moving away from Russian oil and gas. That's why the Prime Minister is taking the action he's taking to help find alternative provision for Europe. But ultimately, we've all got to wean ourselves off this addiction to hydrocarbon energy.
But remembering the attack in Salisbury, the poisoning in Salisbury in 2018, the Prime Minister was then Foreign Secretary. There was an attack on British soil. Why didn't he do more about it then?
Oh no, the Foreign Secretary at the time, the now Prime Minister, absolutely was in the lead in terms of the response against that. Remember, we had a coordinated...
But we bought Russian oil for 4 more years, Mr. Cleverly.
No, but we had, if you remember, we had an internationally coordinated expulsion of Russian intelligence operatives. That was done by the international community in solidarity with the UK in response to that, and we have, as I say, we have, I think, only something like 3% of our gas imports are from Russia. We have largely weaned ourselves off Russian oil and gas. We will continue to go further. We want to support our friends and allies who at the moment are not in the same position that we are, to ultimately get to a state where they no longer need Russian oil and gas either.
Noting the nation's human rights record, how comfortable or otherwise are you with the Prime Minister talking to Saudi Arabia about the supply of oil?
Well, look, we have been very, very clear with Saudi, our long-standing opposition to the death penalty. We raise this with all countries around the world that still have the death penalty. Ultimately, Saudi Arabia is an important, influential country in the Middle East and as an energy generator. So obviously, it is right that the Prime Minister speaks to them about alternative provision whilst this attack is going on. But ultimately, we have, in fact, I have had conversations with the Saudis, not just about the death penalty, but also about moving away from oil and gas as a source of energy generation. I have no doubt that the Prime Minister will bring these issues up when he speaks to the Saudis on his forthcoming trip.
Let's talk lastly and briefly about the plan to house Ukrainians here. The Homes for Ukraine website crashed repeatedly at first. Now, this may be due to the number of people trying to get on it, but surely it should have been more robust. And isn't the system a little overcomplicated, Minister?
Well, look, as you say, the irony of this is I'm actually quite proud that the system struggled. We built it quickly. We could have, yes, look, we could have spent more time stress testing this website and delayed it a couple of days before launching. But frankly, I'm glad we moved quickly on this, and we're moving quickly to ensure we're able to help the Ukrainian refugees. The fact that tens of thousands of people, I think over 40,000 people, have signed up for this is something which as the international representative of this country on the world stage, I could not be more proud of the display of generosity of spirit that the British people have shown through this. So you know what? I know this is a weird thing to say as government minister. I'm glad the website crashed because it is a reflection. It's a reflection of that generosity of the British people.
Will you be logging on and offering a home to someone, Minister?
Look, I have genuinely considered this, and I've discussed this with my wife. I don't know whether our personal circumstances will allow us to do this right at the moment. As you know, Nick, my wife's she's going through medical treatment at the moment, but it's absolutely something that I'm considering.
Lastly, reminding the listeners you have the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Territorial Army. It is reported 3 British former Special Forces soldiers could have been killed in the cruise missile attack on the Ukrainian base close to Poland. What would you say to former service personnel who want to go over and fight, Minister?
Well, I've not been able to, at this stage, confirm the nationality of those that have been hurt or killed in that attack.
But were they to be Brits, what would you say?
So, obviously, our duty is to support those who are hurt and injured overseas and support their families in the UK if they are British citizens. Our advice remains against travelling to Ukraine. I completely understand the desire for people who want to help, whether it's by donating things or travelling to the conflict. We advise against that. There are other better ways that we can help the Ukrainians. But as I say, I'm not able to confirm the nationalities of those who have been hurt or killed.
Grateful for your time this morning. Thank you. Europe and North American Minister James Cowley appearing on LBC, where at 4 minutes after 8 the news is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, a live news programme on a Russian state TV has been interrupted.